You cannot overestimate the level of existential crisis that universities are facing right now. I think even some of the oldest institutions have really not seen anything like this. I feel very fortunate to be in this position to be able to provide some level of help to them during this very, very dark time.
Welcome to the Rise of EdTech, the first podcast from Eruditus. Joining us today is Lisa Rohrer, the Director of University Partnerships at Eruditus and Emeritus. I'm Chavi Sachdev, and in this episode, Dr. Lisa Rohrer tells us how her team is actively working with universities to make high-quality education accessible and affordable. Lisa has been with Eruditus in a variety of roles since she joined, but has been involved with the field of education and watching its evolution for the last 15 years, ever since she got her PhD in 2004. And here she tells us what she's seen change, both as an observer and as a participant.
Definitely, there is more openness now to online than ever before. And that was happening even before COVID. I think in the last few years in particular, we started to really cross a point where it started as something that was kind of fringe and has just become more and more accepted. In particular, in the executive education space and the non-credit space. So we've had, particularly if you think about the schools that we work with, which are very elite schools, which have traditionally really shied away from anything online when it comes to their degree content, but they found a way to kind of experiment and play in that space in their executive education or professional education groups. And then it's probably been fueled as well by the fact that technology and analytics are just changing so quickly and developing so quickly as fields and becoming more and more central to business. And as that's been happening, I think, people around the world are really sitting there saying, oh my gosh, I need to understand these. I went to school 20 years ago when nobody was talking about business analytics or machine learning. And now, people are coming into my company and saying, we need to be doing this. I've got to get a better understanding. And I think the pace of change of those fields has really driven demand for access to high quality content around that. And that's certainly helped to fuel online.
Lisa's also been following the trends in massive open online courses, the MOOCs, which were hugely popular when they first started. Then there was a period of disillusionment, and now the model is evolving. It's been interesting to see universities and firms figure this out and to watch the idea of stackable credentials come into play.
We don't really play in this space. I mean, we contrast the massive open online course with what we deliver, which is the small private online course. And that was done originally, I think, because universities started to question, why are we putting out all this content? It's very difficult to monetize. And yes, it's, in some ways it's fulfilling our mission of having impact, but we also know that there are very low completion rates of these. And so we might get massive numbers of people signing up for these courses, but is it really having its intended goal? And by the way, there's not a real good way to monetize or to even justify the amount of resources it takes to put into courses to do it well. So that kind of led to people feeling a little bit disenchanted with the MOOC. We've taken a really different view on that. And we've sort of said, we want to get serious learners in from the beginning who are really there to learn and to complete our courses. And they want that support. They really want to learn. They're not just dabbling. So we're playing in a little bit of a different market. I see, this idea of stackable credentials and different inroads into degrees as being a key evolution in this space. And so I expect to see more and more experimentation of universities really across the range of, from the very elite universities down to, the more regional, very large state schools experimenting with various modes of alternative credentials and stackability.
Lisa is excited by how far the Eruditus group has come and where it's going next, especially the challenges and opportunities ahead for EdTech, not just for people, the professionals in higher ed, younger students who are now attending schools online because of COVID, but also tech companies who have to figure out new ways of delivering knowledge.
When I think about the future of EdTech from where we're sitting right now, it is mostly about opportunity. Just to, whenever you have a really significant event like this that kind of shakes people and shakes their assumptions to the core, which is meaning like my children, when they start school next week, are going to be starting school in front of a laptop instead of walking to our neighborhood school. And this is such a profound change. Anytime you have changes like this, I think it starts to open up so many opportunities for people that have been trying to get the attention of the public around different ways that we can accomplish some goals, like education. So I do see more openness, and there will continue to be more openness now to EdTech and various ways that technology can impact education and improve educational outcomes. I think obviously the challenges of having these schools and universities jumping so quickly online, I do worry that many people had quite a negative experience with online learning in the spring of this year. And that counts for both faculty and students in both, K through 12 as well as higher ed. I think there was a lot of bad experience, and I worry that may reinforce negative stereotypes. The type of online education that people experienced in the spring is not the type of online education that we talk about when we talk about online. And so that is obviously a worry. And I'm certainly not the first one to voice that worry, but that is one of the challenges.
Lisa and her team have turned these challenges into opportunities. They have a vision for addressing them, especially for university partners who have never faced anything like this kind of disruption before.
Collectively, our team at Eruditus and Emeritus are really thinking about online pedagogy and really furthering the experience of online learning. And, we were doing that before this and we'll continue to do it. And in some ways now we have all these new tools as there's more interest in funding going into EdTech. That provides more and more tools that we can incorporate into our pedagogy. But when I think about these challenges, I think of it more from the university lens, because that's who I'm talking to every day. I have to say that you cannot overestimate the level of existential crisis that universities are facing right now. I think even some of the oldest institutions have, really not seen anything like this. And I feel like we are so fortunate to be in a position to help them uncover new sources of revenue. I have a great affinity for universities, and so I feel very fortunate to be in this position to be able to provide some level of help to them during this very, very dark time.
The team has three main areas they've been working in actively with universities to innovate and grow. The first area, which is pivoting to online classes from traditional executive education classes on campuses, accelerated directly in response to the COVID shutdowns and the need for social distancing.
So what happened at many of our partner schools in February was that they have a lot of their classroom programs happening and again, these are executive education departments. They have a lot of their classroom programs that are that are going in the spring. And suddenly they realized that they had all of these participants that were signed up, and, they're actively marketing these programs, and a big source of revenue is coming up in the spring. And suddenly they can't do that anymore. And so our team very, very quickly put together a solution for them to help them pivot those existing classroom programs into a live online format, which is really a webinar-based format. So it's still very faculty intensive, just like the classroom would be. And there's a chance to really interact with faculty and have that live faculty experience. But of course, it's from your home instead of traveling to the university to be part of that executive education classroom. So we very, very quickly went out to our schools and said, let us help you do this. A lot of them were doing it on their own already. But what we were able to do is provide a lot of best practices for doing this first, because we'd been running a lot of live webinars for the last, 5, 7 years. We had run thousands of live webinars. So we already had a pretty good sense for a lot of the best practices for live online. But then we were also able to say to them, in addition to helping you do that from a pedagogy standpoint, now that it's going to be online, why not go out to a more global audience and bring in a more global audience to this experience? And so that's one thing that we did, was support schools moving those executive education classrooms to online.
The second thing Lisa's team is growing is online boot camps, skill-building courses offered in conjunction with university partners that are geared towards people who are new to a particular career.
So these might be people that are fresh out of an undergraduate program and wanting to get a particular set of skills in order to enter a particular industry. It might be career changers who want to, move into a completely different career. But the idea is that these are very intensive skill building courses. Now, boot camps have existed for a long time. That's not very innovative. But I think what we've been doing is more interesting in that we are providing these in conjunction with our university partners, using university faculty and knowledge and credibility and bringing that into the boot camp space. These boot camps are offered fully online, and we have also worked very hard to make them accessible from a pricing perspective. And this is an idea that is a really important offering, I think, particularly right now when we have a lot of people out of work and a lot of people who are looking to build skills to make themselves more employable, give them more options than they have had during this time when there's high unemployment and a lot of stress around jobs.
And rounding it off is a third program designed for later stage careerists who want to perhaps do longer online programs.
And these are really geared towards more serious learners who want to have, say, the kind of certificate in marketing leadership or in management that is a more serious credential around a set of topics. So these could be 6-month programs that cover, a wide range of topics, and you come out of the other side and you have a certificate from a school saying that you've really mastered that kind of content. So we've been really looking across the entire career arc and seeing how we can create offerings that speak to people at various levels in their careers. So those are some of the ideas that we've been working with our partner schools on, and we're super excited about.
It's clear that Lisa has met these new hurdles with spirit and gusto. But on any day, she says, it's gratifying to be able to have these conversations with partner schools and show them the amazing work that they're doing together and the impact it's having on learners.
A few weeks ago, actually, we sat down with one of our really important partners to present some learner feedback on a new course. We had just delivered the course for the first time. We gathered up all the feedback from the course. And this was actually a course that we had developed very quickly for various reasons. We were under a lot of time pressure, and it was a very important course for the school, and therefore it was very important to us as well. And so it was really critical that course went well. And so we had the opportunity to sit down with the school and share that feedback. And it was really phenomenal, just looking at and reading about the experience that the learners had had, and knowing that we've had an impact on them and really have created a memorable education experience. And that's just really, really gratifying and exciting.
A challenge Lisa and her team have faced is that sometimes there is resistance within a partnering institution. Change is slow in any industry, and for the old guard, moving things online seems daunting or perhaps too experimental and unfamiliar.
I think where I find the most challenge, but also a fair amount of reward, is helping our school partners find ways to overcome resistance that they're experiencing in their institutions. And, it's funny because you would think that I mentioned this existential crisis that it would really transform all of the attitudes inside institutions of higher education. I would say that there are still pockets of people that really want to hang on to the way things have always been done in the past. And that's incredibly frustrating, both for us and for the people that we're working with at our schools, because we're generally working with folks who are very entrepreneurial and innovative. And so when you are able to sort of penetrate that resistance, and you start to see faculty coming to the executive education and saying, I want to be online. Can we do my course online next? Then that you've started to develop some really positive momentum, and that's tremendously rewarding.
Progress is incremental, but then the rewards are even sweeter. And in the next 3 to 5 years, Lisa says she thinks there will be continued significant growth. Their priorities will be more honed. One big vision for the Eruditus Group is taking education to the non-English speaking world.
And we have two ways of doing that now. We have our global schools. We translate courses into Spanish and Portuguese and Mandarin. So we have that as one way that we're reaching into learners who aren't comfortable learning in English. But there's so much further we can take that. And so that's one area that I see us really growing. I should say the second way that we're reaching those learners is by connecting and partnering with the top regional schools in those countries and offering courses that are natively in their language. Again, making education, high quality education, affordable to people that otherwise wouldn't be able to access it.
And the other way Eruditus will fulfill its mission of creating opportunity, Lisa says, is by bridging the non-credit executive education courses and 4-credit degree programs in colleges and universities.
So one of our schools told me once when I first met them that there is a bright line between executive education and the degree folks. And that bright line is never to be crossed. We live in two different worlds. We work in parallel, and we really don't talk or interact with each other. And that same institution now has actually merged their executive education program with an online degree program. So they are now looking at how do they stack their executive education non-credit courses. How do they provide a path to credit that could be, part of an online degree? And that is super exciting. And I think we're going to see more and more of those lines blurring. And that just provides more opportunity for people to access education at the level and pace and price point that works for them. To be part of that change and to see how we can work together with our schools to really explore new ways of thinking about that intersection between executive education and the more traditional 4-credit degrees.
Lisa recently completed 4 years at the Eruditus Group. Years, she says, have been exciting, fascinating, and wonderful.
When I came here, I had actually promised myself that I was never going to work for another company again. I wanted to be an independent consultant and set my own hours and make my own priorities. And yet I started to get involved as a course leader initially, and just was so taken by the culture and the mission and the people here that I just got drawn in, and now I'm definitely all in for the for the foreseeable future. And I think that the things that really attracted me are still here, but the first thing is really the mission, and really being part of this endeavor to take the really fantastic learnings from our partner institutions, these incredible scientists and faculty, and taking their knowledge and making it accessible to a much broader audience. I mean, I'm super inspired by that mission and continue to be every day. I also really energized and excited every day by the global nature of our business. I love the fact that every day I am on Zoom calls with people all over the world, and we're all working together in pursuit of a common mission. And that's really, really exciting. I was actually on a call earlier today with one of our schools where we had folks on 4 different continents on this one call and across about 16 time zones. So it's really, really exciting to me. And it really, especially in this day and age, I just think it's so important to find those commonalities across cultures. And I never get tired of that. The culture itself of Emeritus and Eruditus has been a huge factor for me in coming here and staying here, because I feel like we're a culture of that's incredibly collaborative, where people are really hard workers and really just trying to do the best they can every day. There's not a lot of politics. There's not a lot of sharp elbows. It's a really great place to come to work. And I really appreciate and have loved getting to know my colleagues. So, there's just a lot to really like here. And you add on to that just the excitement of the growth, the opportunities that come with that growth. I have cycled through a number of different positions since I've been here, and the job changes every day.
There's a lot more in store from Lisa's University Partnerships team at Eruditus and Emeritus. To discuss how your educational institution can collaborate, please connect with her team at partnerships@emeritus.org.
A Sonologue production.